Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of my Out of the Park Baseball 21 series with the Colorado Rockies. And we're here now at the end of the 2022 season. Not a very productive one at that. We pretty much finished right around where we did last year. Kind of a mid-70-ish win team, which is really what we've been literally this entire time. Literally every single season has been the same record, or this season, which we regressed by one win. And actually, I'm looking at the expected record. So actually, our expected record has been on par, and we've been worse every season, starting at 76, 75, 73 wins. So we've basically been the same team virtually this entire time, at least talent-wise. At least you would think, based on how close our records have been. And I mean, it's pretty much been the same story as every Colorado Rockies team ever. We were tops in the NL pretty much in every offensive category. Scored a lot of runs, got on base a lot. Good OPS, fifth in batting WAR, third WOBA, third in home runs, third in stolen bases. Yeah, I mean, our offense was just overall one of the best in the National League, and then our pitching was literally the worst, and it had to have been the worst by a pretty long shot, because our starting ERA was almost 7, our bullpen ERA was over 5, our team FIP actually was 14th, so someone out there was worse than us. Don't know who that was, but we'll probably take a look at these standings for the rest of the league in a bit, so we'll be able to see that. But yeah, basically pitching not really good at all, and really neither was our defense. 13th in zone rating, 15th in defensive efficiency, so not a good pitching team, not also a good defensive team, which goes hand in hand. And I think this season really gave me some clarity on kind of what direction we're going to take this series in, with what kind of players we're going to acquire. And I mean, I don't know how I didn't kind of realize or think about this in the previous seasons, or had this epiphany until now, but there's going to be a lot of shaking and moving going on in the offseason this year. Definitely a huge offseason for us, and I don't really want to spoil anything and talk about this quite yet, so I may touch on this a little bit later on in the video, but definitely don't want to spoil kind of what I'm thinking quite yet for the offseason. And with that said, we're just going to go ahead and kind of look at how around the league everyone else did. Mets, Braves, Nationals make the postseason out of the NL East. Brewers make it out of the Central. Dodgers crushed. We finished fourth. The Giants were pretty much worse than us. We were in third for a bit, but our performance kind of went down after the deadline, which kind of makes sense because we moved a lot of pieces. We had the 5th worst record in the National League. So yeah, we should be right around top 10 pick, like we have been. Rays and Red Sox in the playoffs, Indians, Twins, Angels make it in, and Twins and Red Sox are your wild card teams. So I mean, some pretty standard stuff. We're not that far removed from real life, so you wouldn't really expect a lot of kind of shaking and moving on the standings so far. So we actually have quite a lot to cover, of course, with roster turnover, as it's a pretty big jump from July 31st until kind of the end of the regular season. So a lot of things can happen in the roster in that time. I think honestly might kind of adjust how I cover these series, how they're broken up, because I feel like I just leave way too much out of kind of like the day-to-day stuff, which is the day-to-day management is kind of more interesting, at least to me, than maybe other people. So I definitely want to at least cover that stuff a bit more and kind of experiment with how they run the series. But Taylor Trammell, he kind of got hurt for a decent bit at the end of the season here. So he was out for a while. Jose Castillo has kind of a bit of a nagging injury there. Urias, who I don't even know if I definitely did show it. Yeah, we picked him up from the Dodgers. He was awful with us, and he tore his ACL, or partially tore his UCL, so he's down for like 9 months. Kyle Freeland, he already he got hurt in the middle of the season. That's right. Yeah, I was kind of struggling to think about when he got hurt. So yeah, those are kind of major injuries to go over. Josh Lowe also missed a lot of time, which I'll kind of explain this what I have going on with the outfield kind of alignment in a second. But first we'll go over catching. Miguel Amaya, I pretty much just called him up immediately after the trade deadline. Of course, we did a deal with the Cubs where we acquired Miguel Amaya. I don't remember who we exactly traded in this deal. Was this the it was the David Dahl trade. Let's see, how did he do with the Cubs? Wow, he actually did not perform very well at all with the Cubs. So looking pretty good on our part, at least maybe so far. I mean, he wasn't too terrible. I mean, it was his kind of first shot at the big leagues. Tony Walters was extremely bad for us. He was kind of plus value. They're going to see half a win over like 50 games. So, I mean, so. He was all right. Decent-ish with the bat. Of course, his glove was also pretty good. So, we're kind of relying on him to be a good two-way-ish player. Not a, pitching and batting, but good defensive catcher, can provide some pop with the bat as well. So, very well-balanced player. William Contreras is now kind of relegated to our backup-ish role. Him and Amaya are splitting time decently. You can see every fifth game, Contreras has been getting turned. Of course, Contreras was pretty good for us last year as a Rule 5 pick. Mainly was backing up Walters as he had a pretty good season last year and deserves a lot of play tying over Contreras. But this time, I feel it was more split even. And Contreras wasn't very good with the bat this year, and he isn't fantastic in the field. So his bat really is what keeps him in the league as a catcher. So he's going to need the hit if he wants to stay around. That's for sure. Tristan Cash, he had pretty much his first full season with us. What was his first full season in the major leagues. Pretty good rookie season for him there. 42 home runs here on the season. 360, 338, 529 slash line. So pretty good. OPS plus just over 300. WRC plus of 118. So, could have been better. Wasn't fantastic with the bat. Of course, it's only his rookie season. He has a lot of room to grow. 20 points according to what his potential could be. So he's got a lot of room to grow, so hopefully he can keep growing and get into being a better player. He doesn't have fantastic work ethic, which kind of scares me. He's pretty hit or miss, at least in my experience with OOTP, with how he turns out to be. So it'll be interesting to see if he turns into anything this time around. Jeter Downs, he had an extremely good season for us. Not quite the 90-game stretch that he had last year to start his major league career, but he was fantastic for us this year. Kind of actually cooled off. He was playing a lot better throughout the season. Average ended up dipping below 300. Of course, that's not really anything we're looking for, but still a very productive offensive season from him. WRC plus of 122. And he was also actually pretty decent for us at second base efficiency over 1 there, plus zone rating. So it's a good look for him to be a plus defensively. He definitely is much more of a second baseman than a shortstop, so we'll definitely probably have him penciled in the infield next year. Now, Bobby Dalbec, was the real surprise of this season. Of course, he pretty much got a full season in with us last year. Got a decent amount of run in 2020, about 50 games. 2020, he had a so-so performance, wasn't fantastic, wasn't awful, was pretty much, what you would expect for a kind of fringy prospect corner infielder. And then last year he was absolutely terrible. So, still hit 34 home runs, but peripheral was so bad, barely slugged over 400. It was just bad all around. Those numbers speak for themselves. WRC plus 82, so way below league average. And then here you have him pop off, and he was the leading home run hitter for the season. Hit over 50 bombs this year, 280, 375, 576 slash line. That BABIP is, it's kind of really hard to tell what kind of going on with the BABIPs here. Cores definitely makes a huge difference because I don't think I had a single guy on the team with a BABIP under like 320. It's definitely some Coors effect here, but he has had a monster of a season, walking much more than he did last year, so that's interesting to see. Also striking out a lot less than he did in the previous 2 seasons, so hopefully that trend continues. I definitely would like it to. Definitely would be good for his performance, but yeah, 6'1" player. He's pretty fantastic for us this year. Grant K, he was pretty much the utility-ish man this year. Played a lot of first, a little bit of third, shortstop. Even pitched the game. He was kind of just meh. I picked him in the Rule 5 draft just because his rating is kind of interesting. He's already almost 30. Can pretty much play anywhere decently. Kind of interesting hitting rating. It's a good on base guy. Looked kind of just meh. Didn't really hit for much power, which definitely limited his hitting value. But still, a player who I'm definitely going to keep around the system at least. He might not make the major league roster next year, but he's definitely a guy who I want around. Because I do like his ratings. Colton Welker is kind of an interesting guy. He just crushed AAA this year. We've had him up before. We had him up last year, and he did pretty well. Had him up in September this year, and he also played pretty well as too. But there really just isn't a spot for him. Dahlback is pretty much there in the corner there at third. Cassius. His first base is locked up. He could possibly play corner outfield, but honestly, our hitting is pretty set. We don't really have any room for him, so he's just a guy who doesn't really have a spot. So honestly, you could maybe look to move him because as a pretty much a single position player, doesn't have a lot of depth value. So he's definitely a guy who could look to move next year. Now Brendan Rodgers is kind of an interesting guy this year. He was pretty much the whole season trailing Jeter Downs in kind of like performance. At least hitting performance. Downs hit better for him for the majority of the season, and all of a sudden at the end, Downs just got a little cold, and Rodgers pretty much got set on fire. He ended up hitting 320, 370 basically, 526. Literally all of those numbers were lower than Downs until pretty much the very end of the year. So a very interesting surge from him. His BABIP was actually pretty identical to Downs. The really main killer that kind of separated him from Downs and WAR was he was awful. Defending shortstop this year, minus 13, pretty much his own rating. And that just really just speaks to the fact that I guess he's just not a shortstop, and we have to stop treating him like that. So this kind of goes hand in hand with kind of my plan for the offseason that I was talking about earlier. But we got to get Brendan Rodgers off shortstop, so that pretty much means we have a choice to make: Jeter Downs or Brendan Rodgers. We're going to have to make a decision on one of those guys on what we're going to do with them. I'm thinking we'd probably keep Downs just because I guess I prefer him. I like his ratings a little better. He doesn't have the greed that Rodgers does, so it might be easier to keep him around. But yeah, something's going to have to do. We could end up keeping both of them. But we just need someone to play better shortstop, especially in Colorado, where I'm seeking out a lot of ground ball pitchers to kind of take advantage of their ground ball tendency to get some outs and have guys perform better. We need much better defensive infield guys, and one of the steps is just taking Rodgers off of shortstop. So we really need to get that done, and we definitely will be looking to upgrade our infield in the offseason. Cal Mitchell, he was one of our other Rule 5 picks, and he had a fantastic hitting track record in the minors, so we brought him in, and he pretty much just came in and hit 254, 353, 497 /9. Didn't get a ton of starts. Really didn't play a lot until the end of the year when Josh Lowe and Trammell went down both at the same time. So that's when he got most of his run. He's pretty much a straight up corner outfield guy. Can't play first base. He could, I guess. It'd probably take him a while to be decent at it, though. But of course, he's more valuable as a corner outfield guy. Just kind of a hit first guy who wasn't particularly awesome with the bat, but didn't get a ton of chances. So he's a guy who's going to be interesting to have in our system. I definitely plan on keeping around Braden Bishop. He's just a guy we picked up off of waivers when we had a bunch of outfielders go down this year. And he's a good defensive center fielder, so it's why not? While he did perform with a negative zone rating, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, so we just called him up. Not called him up. Cleared off the waivers just to take a spot. And then Brenton Doyle, we also called him up. He was actually raking in AAA this year and AA. Not as much in AA actually. But yeah, he was fantastic. Called him up just at the end here, just because we had some spots to fill, and why not? And now some of you might be scratching your heads kind of at this. I have Hilliard playing center and Lowe playing right. This is basically because I just wanted to do something to try to increase Lowe's defensive versatility. Of course, both of these guys are kind of confusing to me. Like, Lowe has pretty good defensive outfield ratings, although his zone rating isn't fantastic, especially non-center field. Or it wasn't fantastic in center field, which is pretty much the only spot that he played. So I'm kind of trying to increase his versatility to see what we have, because, I mean, as I've mentioned a bunch of times before, that outfield in Colorado is just massive, like, land area. So, like, you definitely need guys who have a ton of outfield range to get out there and cover it. And I mean, based on like the ratings and what their zone ratings have been, either they've just been having poor defensive seasons, or that outfield is so big that a 60 just isn't enough to cover like any defensive outfield position enough. So I'm kind of moving Low around for that reason, kind of see what happens. Hilliard has pretty much similar outfield defensive ratings as him. And they were pretty like average-ish here. Around 0 for zone rating, so pretty much an average guy. It's also interesting because Hilliard and Lowe are both big and can like run a bunch. Like, their speed is both really high. So just kind of seeing that. I didn't really care about Hilliard playing him in center field, but just another thing I was thinking, if we're going to be upgrading our infield defense and Rodgers becomes like a backup middle infielder type, he'd definitely split time with Downs, maybe spell a defensive specialist shortstop, kind of be a good infield bat off the bench. I definitely would want Lowe to be more versatile because, of course, his center field rating, as I mentioned, isn't fantastic. And, as it would chalk up next year, it'd be Trammell in left, Lowe in center, and Hilliard in right. And I definitely, want to continue to do what I said before and improve that defense, not only in the infield, but up the middle in general. And I think it'd be very good for us to have a defensive specialist center fielder who just has insane defensive ratings, a ton of range, and just can get to every ball in that really large outfield. So with that, I thought it'd be most beneficial to kind of make Lowe a utility guy pretty much, because he does have pretty decent ratings anyway. He definitely would be like an outfield / quarter infield guy. He has pretty good infield arm rating, not a ton of range, not the best air rating, but he definitely could play capable first and third. So I'm kind of thinking, he could be, he's also, of course, a good lefty, good lefty bat against right-handed pitching. So, it'd be a good idea to have him. You want that kind of bat in the lineup. So I thought it'd be good to kind of move him around, and just switching these was just kind of a way of getting Low some ABs in right field. I usually use spring training to kind of get this kind of position versatility done, the minor leagues even. But, in a season where nothing really matters, at the end where we weren't playing very well, I figured it was fine to, just move around, try to work on that positional versatility. So that's pretty much the rationale behind that. Now, pitching-wise here, everything was just awful. There's not even that much to talk about here. All I really need to know here is that, or at least I don't even feel like discussing all this just awful pitching stuff. All you need to know is that the Garrett Richards veteran pitching experiment looks to be a massive failure. Of course, I brought him in as just, a veteran guy, see if anything had left. That worked pretty well in the Tiger series that I ran, buying low and veteran guys. But this was definitely a miss. He barely even played. He got 11 starts. He was on the DL pretty much. He was on the IL, I should say. He was on the IL like 7 different times or something for pretty shortest stints. Michael Avenue here, just one of the guys we acquired from the Cubs again, the Doll trade. Pretty okay in AAA this year. Decided to call him up, and he didn't do very well, which is pretty much the case with everyone here. Estevez was bad. Sintel was okay, not awful. Ryan Rollison got a lot of starts this year, or a decent amount, 14. Again, the guy is kind of meh. Almonte, who was pretty good last year, he was only okay this year. I think that has a decent amount to do with his starting some games, though. He's definitely a much better bullpen piece than he is. Yeah, and his bullpen ratings are fantastic, much better than his ratings as a starter. Marquez, his ERA is just awful. first glance, it's just, 7.5 ERAs. FIP was only 5. His WAR was much better than you'd think for a guy with these kind of numbers. I mean, the peripherals don't look too bad, allowing a absolute ton of home runs, but I mean, that's pretty much the case with everyone on this team, and pretty much everyone who pitches in Colorado. Gudo, kind of meh. Paredes, I mean, these are kind of the guys who just did the best, even though they weren't, didn't have fantastic performances, really just kind of, guys who probably have priority next year when it goes to filling out the bullpen, because they performed well this year. Feldman, he'll be back. I'm sure Diaz, maybe. Junior Fernandez, he'll definitely be back. He was pretty decent, actually, for us. And Jose Gonzalez, he was absolutely fantastic. So, yeah, the starting rotation is really just what needs to be upgraded. I'm sure it'll be fine with, because, I mean, the back of the bullpen, is already pretty good. You got Gonzalez, Fernandez, Feldman, Almonte. Bowden wasn't particularly good, so we definitely would need another lefty in the bullpen. But, maybe Rawlinson can do that. Maybe he'd be better on bullpen piece than the starter. Although I'm not quite sure what would happen with that, because he wants to be in their starting rotation. But, yeah, lots of guys not performing so well here. And yeah, so I think that'll honestly do it for the end of the season recap. I don't want to bring too much of the offseason into this video, because, it is the end of the season recap, and we'll leave, the offseason stuff for the offseason, and talk about a lot of the moves I want to make. See some of the prospects here on the screen. But yeah, don't want to delve into too much of the moves I want to make yet, because we'll be talking about that next episode. So definitely be sure to watch the next one. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in that next offseason episode.